All right, Elite Wrestle Talk. This is episode 17, and I got to say, we have a phenomenal guest. We have an individual that is around these parts in Gatineau, Quebec. He is a co-founder of the phenomenal, amazing wrestling promotion, GPW Wrestling. We got the one and only, the phenomenal, the legend himself, Katana, right here on the radio station Airwaves. Crow, how are you doing tonight?
I'm fine yourself, Brandon. Thanks for having me, my friend.
Oh man, thank you so much for a bit of your time, man. It's such an honor to chat with you. Like I told you when we were talking on the phone, I first saw you wrestle way back in the GNW days, which I know we're going to get into that during the interview. But again, thank you so much for your time, man. Such a Canadian wrestling legend is right here on my station.
Oh my
So
God.
again, thank you for your time, dude.
Well, thank you. I don't think I'm that high in the ranks, but I've been wrestling for quite some time. Did have a good match against Kevin Owens when he was Kevin Steen back in 2002. So I'm still doing it and having fun. So it's all good. And by the way, I don't necessarily wear my makeup anytime during the day, but I did have promos to do today for our upcoming show. So that's why I'm like that. And I told you, Brandon, might as well do the podcast like this.
Hey, I gotta say, and it's definitely an honor to have the one and only Crow Katana in persona, in character tonight. But Crow, I gotta take you back to the beginning of your in-ring career, man. I gotta ask, what inspired the Crow character, and of course, what initially inspired you to actually pursue a career within the ring, man? Because, like you said, you've been doing this for so many years.
Yeah, well, I guess every wrestler starts by looking at it young. So me, it started when I was looking at international wrestling in Montreal from Gino Brito, and then of course WWF at the time. So seeing the Randy Macho Man Savages, the Hulk Hogan, the Roddy Piper, that kind of got me interested in wrestling. The Dino Bravo, the Rick Martel, the Rougeau brothers. So you're like a fan to start with, and you think you might be able to get into it. And when you get to a certain age, well, depending if there's opportunities with wrestling schools, well, then you can get a chance to get into the this wonderful business. But it starts by being a fan of wrestling, and at first you believe in it, and then when you kind of know how it's done, it's even more fascinating, and you want to do it even more.
And I do know as well that you actually had the opportunity to train alongside WWF legend Jacques Rougeau, also known to the wrestling world as the Mountie. I was wondering, what was it like just actually being able to, be in the ring and share the ring with such a Canadian wrestling legend like him, and of course, train alongside him as well?
Well, it was fantastic because I did start up with guys from Hall back in the time of CPW wrestling. I did start with Dan Gervais, René Bastien, and Guy Soriol. I don't want to forget these guys because if these guys didn't have a wrestling school, I don't think I would have taken more time for me to get involved in wrestling. And then after that, I was with Edouard Carpentier for a couple of years in Montreal. But yes, when I met Jacques Rougeau, he's a friend of mine now. I've been knowing him for the last 20 years, wrestled for him in 10 years for his wrestling shows around the province, and finally bought his ring and started the GPW wrestling with a couple of our friends. So it's like the same ring we used to use at the Jacques Rougeau wrestling. We have the ring for GPW wrestling now. But Jacques, he's a good, of course, he's a legend. He should be in the Hall of Fame with his brother Raymond. But I mean, what a great mind for business. Anytime you work with him, I learned how to promote wrestling at the best, hanging out with Jacques, with his family-oriented shows, the way he recruits sponsors, the way he takes care of everybody, every customer. I kind of learned a lot from him. And of course, the wrestling style, I learned a lot of psychology from Jacques. I wouldn't be the same wrestler I am today without Edouard Carpentier, without the three guys at the beginning I mentioned, and of course without Jacques, because Jacques really changed my perspective on wrestling, on how to make it family, how to promote. I mean, back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and beginning of the 80s, some people really thought wrestling was real, and the promoters were kind of kayfabing the people. So, I mean, cutting yourself in the forehead or being extremely violent was to protect the business and make sure the paying customers would come back 2 weeks, 3 weeks after. But now today, with the knowledge we have on wrestling, it kind of doesn't make any sense to be doing that, but it only gets you a certain amount of diehard fans. Going family, well, I mean, we can get 3,000 people in the venue, but if we don't have a family-oriented show like promised, they're not going to come back. So I learned a lot from Jacques, the promoting side of the business.
I completely agree. Especially social media nowadays doesn't help as well with the whole kayfabe situation because at the end of the day, you always have someone that either works behind the scenes that leaks something online, so you can never actually really have a really thorough storyline. And because a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is real," or "This is not," or it's just one of those things where social media. I find social media helps the business when it
Yeah.
comes to promoting, but it also kind of really hurts it as well when it comes to storylines and just new backstage news.
Yeah, definitely. Because back in the days, you only had like a Dave Meltzer that could actually, with his newsletter, that could actually, bring out the information that was supposed to stay behind closed doors. But it's too bad that it is the way it is now. Because back then it was a protected business. In the backstage, it was only wrestlers. Not today. I mean, everybody gets in backstage. It's too bad, but it's a spectacle now. It's a show. I mean, it's just that people are not going to be so much involved when they know that it's scripted. But reading the famous book by Roddy Piper, there's actually a phrase that caught on to Roddy Piper early in his career, and that was a phrase from Johnny Valentine saying that I can't make them believe wrestling is real, but I sure as hell can make them believe I am. To me, it's like Ronnie Garvin explained the whole situation. He says he could bring back some old timers, a Johnny Valentine against a Don Leo Jonathan. In today's wrestling, with the knowledge people have of wrestling, and he tells Ronnie, and he's right, he would have those two guys wrestling, and people will be involved in the match. Because why? Because it would be less is more. It would look like a contest. They wouldn't do any backflip or stuff like that. That's for a circus. They would really be grounded wrestling, but the people in attendance would probably say, "Oh my God, the five first matches were scripted, were not real, but this match is real." That today is I think that's what wrestling needs to do, and the way to do it is make it look real, credible, and but not too violent because you got to be careful about that. But there's always with the media, like you said, it's good for promoting, but I mean, you can't keep the kayfabe. Kayfabe's dead. But I mean, UFC to a certain point, is it all fixed? I don't know. But they do great promos and they can control the outcome because the guys can work together. Wrestling is the same thing. It's just sometimes the guy is kicking and slapping their legs or missing a drop kick by a feet, or it takes the edge off. The people are not involved in that way. It's like you're watching a movie, you know it's not real, but if during the movie the director says, cut, let's do that scene again, you're like taken out of the movie and you kind of lost the involvement you had. So that's why I tell all the guys who wrestle for us, make it look real. Don't give the guy 10 clothesline. Give him one. Make it count. Don't give him five
Yeah.
chops. Give him one chop and have him beg not to have another one. So it can be redone, and it just needs to go back a little bit to the basics and look like a contest. It needs to look like a contest. Some guys are pinning guys just at the end of the match. You should pin the guy anytime during the match. That's the object of the match, to win.
And also, as well, in 2002, like you mentioned, you had the opportunity to wrestle Kevin Steen, but now the world knows him as KO, Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
I was wondering, what was it like actually just stepping in the ring with a very young Kevin Steen at the time? And of course, just what was it like just working alongside him during early on in both of your careers?
Well, it was great. It was great. He really impressed me because I was 31 and he was about 19. And he had just left the Jacques Rougeau because he started with Jacques Rougeau. Jacques Rougeau really taught him a lot early in his career. But after a while, he didn't want to wrestle like only 6 times, 7 times a year for Jacques, which were great shows in front of 3, 4, 5,000 people. You wanted instead, and understand, to go wrestle in front of a couple of hundred people, but to know and to experience more with wrestling and get to work with many guys. So when he came up in 2002, he was really awesome because we didn't have a whole time to talk about during the match because he came in late. And we had about 10, 15 minutes to talk about the match, not even going to the ring. But we came out, we had a 10-minute draw. And the guy from RDS, which is TSN in French, he actually wrote a review. And there was PCO against Thunder that night. There was about six. Abdullah the Butcher was on that card. And he voted the Kevin Steen Crow match second best match of the night. 10-minute draw, great match. You can watch it on YouTube if you punch in Crow space versus space Steen. You'll see the match. It was in Hall at the Robert Curtin Arena. But Kevin really impressed me because even at that stage in his career, he introduced me like a couple of new moves that he did. And I mean, you could tell he was a pro. I'm not surprised that it took a long time for him to make it, but I guess it's all worth it now. But what a hardworking guy. I wouldn't have done what he did. When I was 31, I had my daughter, just had my daughter, and I couldn't go on the road. But he really sacrificed a lot. And but you could tell even at that time what an amazing talent. He was just smaller guy, but what a talented wrestler. Really glad about him. It's fun to have like a guy from Marieville, Quebec, in the WWE, making a lot of money, and he's there for the long run. It's pretty cool.
I remember actually first discovering Kevin Steen on Ring of Honor Wrestling back in the day. I remember I was in high school. I remember how it used to work. They used to play on channel 116 on Kojiko, man. It used to be like 1 o'clock in the morning, man, on a Saturday where they played like the Ring of Honor Wrestling, man, on there. And I used to stay up just to watch Kevin Steen and Bryan Danielson and all. I think it was even a young CM Punk and a young Seth Rollins as well. The Ring of Honor then was just an unprecedented type of wrestling, man. I really wish we could go back to that type of Ring of Honor, man. But all good things must come to an end at some point.
Yeah, no, it was really good. That was really like the next level, the next generation was really made up in Ring of Honor. So I mean, wow, you're talking about all the guys you mentioned. I mean, even El Generico. I mean, Sami Zayn, he was there.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, these guys were awesome. And even back then, I even thought that even Kevin was even more impressive back in that time, because I guess when he comes to WWE, they got so many money involved in those guys' careers. So I mean, you're not going to do this and that to hurt yourself or to hurt your opponent. But I mean, back in the Ring of Honor, holy moly, he was always great on the mic. But I mean, what a great wrestler that invented so many moves. He's really hard. Like, and sometimes people criticize his shape. Well, to me, you look back then when WWE, WWF, was at its peak. I mean, you had the Warriors, your Ultimate Warriors, the Rick Rude, the Paul Orndorff, the Hulk Hogan. But I mean, you did have also the Harley Race that had a regular type physique. So I mean, Kevin Owens today. I mean, hey, you don't need to have 55 bodybuilders on a wrestling roster. I mean, it's good to have guys with different bodies. Sami Zayn looks a little scrawny, still, but what a fantastic wrestler. So it's good to have guys that don't necessarily look all alike, and Kevin is one of them. And what a career, man! And he's still there. I don't know when he's going to stop at WWE, but I think it's going to come from him.
Oh, he's going absolutely going hard right now. I mean, honestly, I don't think his career in WWE is coming to an end anytime soon. I just watched SmackDown the other night. He actually tagged with Randy Orton to actually take on the Bloodline as well, man. So he's still doing main events on SmackDown and Raw. So I mean, his career is definitely going strong within the WWE.
Well, it's not surprising with a good work ethic like that. I mean, wow! But he did, like I mentioned, he did start with the Mountie. Jacques Rougeau was his coach for the first couple of years, and it's too bad because sometimes I think I heard Kevin. Sometimes he did mention some bad things about Jacques, and to me, if you're not going to tell anything good about somebody, I would not talk, negative about somebody, because he did give you a good opportunity to train you at the beginning, and you for your own career, you decided to go elsewhere, and that's okay, but you don't necessarily criticize the guy who helped you at the beginning.
But also, as well, as we all know, you are the co-owner of GPW Wrestling out there in Gatineau, Quebec. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about how you actually came to be to actually, co-found this amazing wrestling promotion. Because I got to say, you guys do phenomenal things just across the pond there in Quebec.
Yeah, well, thank you, Brandon. Well, we started. I wanted to have I was wrestling for Jacques Rougeau at the time, and he was talking about closing the school, closing his shows because his three sons didn't want to pursue a career in wrestling. So I kind of told a couple of guys that we were wrestling for Jacques, guys from Gatineau. We got together, and we started that in 2018. Our first show was in October. It was sold out, but because with the media today, it really helps to help promote. And me, I've been like a business guy. I had my paint store for many years, so I'm really involved in the business aspect, the business circle in Gatineau and Hall. So the key was able to get some good sponsors, get a family show, get some sponsors, and from day one to give to the community. We give an average about $500 every show. We are at about 38,000 in 6 years given over the course since 6 years, given back to the community. So that was like from day one, that was super important. And the fact that we did family shows, like I explained, if you try to stick with the diehard fans and show them stuff that's extreme, you'll get 75, 100 people involved in that. But if you go family, I mean, our regular shows, we draw about 350, 400 people. We have 2 shows a year. We do in the middle range. We attract about 800 people. And once a year, we go all in at the Slush Puppy Arena. We've been there 2 times, and we had 2 times 3,100 fans in attendance. So, I mean, it's a lot of work. We're 4 owners in there, and we really work extremely hard. And the key was really family show, sponsors, and to get big events, you need to give the fans today's talent, but you need to bring back some nostalgia from the older wrestlers. So that's why we had Demolition and Raymond Rougeau the first time, and we had Ted DiBiase, Tugboat, and Tony Atlas the second time. Now we have the Powers of Pain this Saturday. So once in a while, we always try to get the legends, and that at least that gets us the older people, the people of my age, 50 years old. They'll look at the poster, they'll see, wow, Raymond Rougeau and Teddy DiBiase is going to be there, and then they get to the event, they do the meet and greet, they stay for the show, and they realize, wow, I know none of these wrestlers on the card, but they're so good because the level of wrestling from WWE and the independents is very thin. It's not that. Some guys are independents today and they can make it to the pro ranks next week. So, I mean, it's a good show. So that was the secret of our success. Those 3, the sponsors, the family shows, it really helps. I mean, sorry, my advice to any promoters out there, make sure it's a family show. I mean, why would a heel come out and throw his middle finger at an 8-year-old kid to get heat? I would say to that heel wrestler, really, you shouldn't even be in wrestling. I mean, to get your heat, you just need the way you look at the people, the way you walk, the way you talk. That's going to get you over as a heel. A heel should cheat. A heel should be a coward. But I mean, we always tell a roster at the beginning, because there's some that are here for the first time, we always tell them no swearing, no fingers, no sexual movements, no blood. If there's blood, you go home. No fighting in the stands, because I've seen that over the years. It's unbelievable when the people can get hurt. So, I mean, by doing all that, I think it's a good success to get people for the first time and give them, it's one thing to get fans for a first show, but how do you get them involved for another show? Well, you got to give them something that they'll be happy to come back.
And speaking, I know you briefly mentioned it, and I have to dig into this because obviously this Saturday night, October 5th, out there in the heart of Gatineau, Quebec, GPW Wrestling will be hosting an event with WWF legendary tag team, as you mentioned, the Powers of Pain. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a little bit more about this event, and of course, where can we snag our last-minute tickets right now if they are indeed still available for this Saturday night?
Well, they are. This is the poster of the card. So you see right there, the Warlord and Barbarian. They're in their 60s, but believe you me, they're still in phenomenal shape, and they're not just going to sign autographs and take pictures with the fans. They'll be Warlord and Barbarian will be in the ring. So there's 8 matches on the card. It's in Gatineau. It's in Gatineau in the Hall sector. People can get. There's still some regular tickets at $20 available. All of our 200 VIPs are sold, but you can get tickets either through my personal page, Casey Katana, or go on GPW space wrestling, and you can get some tickets there. So it's really on top of that, we have a fundraiser for a food bank in that area of town. So it's a good positive thing. So it's going to be a good show, and the fact that we have like 6 years in the making, GPW, we're really grounded as far as having, like, we have our tag team champions, we have our ladies champions, provincial champion, cruiserweight champion, and of course now the Powers of Pain are challenging for the GPW tag team belt. So I mean, it's going to be interesting, and I'll be in their corner to make sure everything works all right, and that the other heels don't cheat.
And also as well, because I do know we have a lot of fans that are watching this that are wondering, how much does it cost to actually to get a photo op with the Powers of Pain?
Okay, well, we have for a photo op, it would be $50. That would give you $50 Canadian. That would give you a photo with Warlord and Barbarian. For $50 as well, you can get a signed picture by both Warlord and Barbarian, or if you have like an action figure of the Powers of Pain, it's included. There's no upgrade because it's not a picture; it's a action figure. But we have the best deal is $80. You actually have one signature of each, and you also have a picture with both of them. And the thing that we try to do different, because I do a lot of conventions, I go to Wrestling Con, I go to the Comic Cons. Sometimes I think it's too fast. Sometimes you pay a big amount. I paid $150 US for Sting, and I was in line for 1 hour. And when I got in front of Steve Borden, I was with him about 8 seconds. It was, he's going to sign. He practically doesn't even look at you. And come on, okay, you got your signature, get lost. We want to give the people a better experience, so that's why we limited the amount of meet and greet, because they're going to be signing for 2 hours. So we want to give the time to people, talk to them, tell them what you want to tell them stories that you saw them back in '88 and you were amazed, whatever. And when you take pictures, I mean, we'll take pictures with your phone, but we'll take like 12 of them. And if you're there with your son, you want one each with your son, okay. You want one just to get all alone, okay. You want your son only with the powers of paint, okay. We give them a good experience. So for $80, I think it's a good price, because these guys, I mean, they're professional. That's why they live. That's why they live today. That's how they make their living today. So I mean, they're not cheap. But I mean, we have to do a certain amount to charge to the fans, and we try to be reasonable in prices. And if people have a lot of things to get signed, we can always make a deal on certain amounts.
And I mean, also too, $50 isn't that bad of a price. I mean, actually, no, it's a very great price because you really think about it. There's two wrestlers in that tag team. That's $25 per wrestler. That's a really phenomenal price, man, especially for a legendary WWF tag team, man. I mean, Powers of Pain, $50 for both. I mean, that's an unbeatable price. If you go to an Ottawa Comic Con or Montreal, you're going to be paying at least minimum 100, and that's even being gracious for conventions like that.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to pay also the entrance fee. Us, we don't. If you want to come to the show, the tickets are $20 and up. But if somebody just wants to meet the Powers of Pain, they don't necessarily have to buy a ticket for the event, because the meet and greet is going to be outside the venue, still inside, but not in the big room. So some people are just coming up to meet the Powers of Pain, and they're leaving after, and that's fine. That's fine, because there's some collectors that don't necessarily want to see the match. They just want to have an opportunity to be with them, and they haven't been here in a long time, because the last time they were around here, which was in Hamilton, it's still not around here, but I mean, it's 6 hours away. So before that, I have no recollection. I think Barbarian actually was with Haku with Great North Wrestling a couple of years ago, but I mean, it's hard to get these guys around here. So I mean, same with Demolition, same like Ted DiBiase we had last year in June. I mean, he hadn't been in our area in quite some time, and we're working already on the other legends. We got more legends coming up in December, March, and June next year. So we think it's a good formula to get the people interested in our shows, to have the talent of today, but bring back some legends once in a while.
And before we actually part ways here tonight, Crow, because I know you're a very busy individual, I have to ask, how do we actually follow yourself and GPW Wrestling across social media? That way we can stay updated on not only this Saturday's event, but also other future events as well.
Okay, well, I think I'm a dinosaur a little bit with social media. I'm 51 years old, so I mean, bear with me. But I know we have an Instagram account. I just don't know what it is. But I do have it. What I'll do, Brandon, I'll send you the link. I'll have one of my partners send you the link tomorrow. But definitely on our Facebook page, which is where we give out the most information. So it's GPW, Gatineau Pro Wrestling, GPW space wrestling. So you're going to see the big logo, GPW, like this. Like this, GPW, that's our logo. So click on that, and you'll see all the upcoming events, all the promos from the wrestlers, the recaps, a lot of stuff. We have a very good Facebook page. We don't put too much stuff on it to get on people's nerve, but we do give a lot of information. And we're on television as well. We're on TVC, Met TV in Gatineau. So we got a YouTube channel. But to my knowledge, my best recollection is the Facebook page, GPW Wrestling.
I got to say, Crow, again, thank you so much for a little bit of your time here this evening and coming on the radio station Airwaves. It was such an honor to speak with such an amazing, talented in-ring performer like yourself. Before we part ways, I got to say thank you so much for giving crazy wrestling fans like myself your body and putting your body and your career on the line, man. You're such a talented individual. I cannot wait to see you in the ring more and more often. But again, thank you so much for your time and, of course, years of in-ring competition.
Well, thank you. There's more years back than there's years in front of me, but now my son has started. So my son, I'm really happy about my son being in wrestling now. He used to just be in hockey, and now it's. I didn't want to put any pressure on him to start wrestling, but it's all coming from him. He's been wrestling for 1 year in the wrestling school because we have a wrestling school in Gatineau. So anybody that wants to get started, we got 2 great coaches, and we don't charge exorbitant fee. I mean, it's $200 for start, and then it's $75 a month. So I think that's reasonable. The school is 2 nights a week. So, but definitely, I can show you a little bit of my collection. But yeah, I have a picture. I have a picture of the Crow. Where is it? The picture of the Crow back in the time. Geez, I have too much stuff. You have to look. Geez, I mean, look at that. Look at that stuff. Well, that's the Crow with Edouard Carpentier, my trainer back in the day. Yeah. So, I mean, geez, I'm looking for my Crow picture. I can't even find it. That's how much stuff I have. I can't even find my Crow picture back from 20 years ago. Anyway, but no, I got way too much stuff. Too
Hey,
much.
you know what? At the end of the day, you can never have too much wrestling memorabilia, Crow. You can, man. You can never have too much.
No, and by the way, one other thing I didn't say, Brandon, I also am a co-owner of a WCA. That's a wrestling collectible auction page. That's a page that, as you can see, I have a lot of wrestling memorabilia. So once a month, I go live on Facebook under what? Under wrestling collectible auction. Find us, and I got one auction this Sunday, and we're going to have Jacques Rougeau on the StreamYard link. Jacques Rougeau is going to be there. So find us, Wrestling Collectible Auction. I have a whole lot of stuff. I sell some signed pictures, signed action figures, T-shirts, loose figures. So, and we have like a pretty good time because anytime somebody buys something at $50, we give chops. We give chop to one of the guys in the room. So I mean, it gets physical.
I got to say, it definitely has a phenomenal collection. I definitely will tune in as well and see if I can get my hands on some Crow Katana merchandise on WCA Wrestling Collectibles.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Brandon. Hey, you're saying thank you to me, but I must say to you, thank you for reaching out with Tara and all that, because, you know, the time you're giving me now, I'm giving you the time, but I mean, you're giving me exposure and giving us GPW some exposure. I mean, anytime you want to do this again, Brandon, I'll be more than happy to do it. And I want to thank you personally for allowing me to be on your program and to promote our great wrestling company. I'm very pleased and very happy to know you and consider you a friend now.
Hey, I got to say, you are most certainly welcome, and it's an absolute honor to call Crow Katana my friend as well, man. Thank you so much, and we definitely will make this happen again very, very soon. Whenever you guys do your next GPW wrestling event, I definitely will keep my eyes peeled, and I will reach out to you, and we'll get you back on, because I do know we have a lot more to talk about when it comes to the Crow Katana's career, man. I know there's a lot more we can talk about. So, again, thank you so much for your time, and we definitely shall talk again soon, Crow.
Thank you, Brandon. Have a good night. And if anytime you want to come up to the show as a friend, you're an invited guest, no charge.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Crow. I will admit, I might just have to jump over to Gatineau this Saturday and actually come and see the Crow kick some ass in GPW wrestling.
Oh, watch out with the word ass. You can't say that at GPW.
That is true. That is true. But I'll get it out before I walk through the doors.
Okay. All right, my friend. So just text me and I'll be happy to meet you at the door and have you sit in a very good spot.
Hey, sounds great, Crow. Thank you so much, man. Definitely expect a text this Saturday. We definitely shall talk again soon, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Brandon.